This is the Backrooms in Minecraft, and I'm going to be surviving 100 days in it. I'm also going to be doing this in hardcore mode, so if I die once, it's over. Be sure to stay till the very end of the video to see something you won't believe. There are also things like smilers and other entities and really cool things within this mod pack that I found. Again, stick around till the end of the video. You don't want to miss it. Enjoy. On day 1, I spawned inside of level 0 of the Backrooms. I saw the old mono yellow wallpaper and heard the fluorescent buzz of the lights in the backgrounds. I started looking around and exploring. I had spawned in a big room, but then that's when I saw it. There was a giant smiler right down the hallway. I crouched and hid, hoping it didn't see me, but I decided not to risk it. On days 2 through 5, I ran away from the smiler, hoping it wasn't following me. I didn't know much about this mod, so for all I knew, that was only one of the entities. Stay tuned later to see one even more terrifying. Anyways, I kept making my way through the backrooms. I noticed some areas where I could hide in case I did get chased that was 1.5 blocks tall. Hopefully other entities couldn't fit inside of there. I kept walking. Some of the areas were lit and some of them were dark. I kept hearing sounds around me, and I wasn't really sure whether they were monsters or other things. Also, if you're wondering how I got all this gear, I decided to prepare a little bit before entering the backrooms. I decided not to show it so you wouldn't get bored, but anyways, days 5 through 10, I kept wandering around. I noticed a staircase that led down, but decided to save it for later, since there could be something down there. I then found a narrow-looking passage that was only 1 block wide. It felt really claustrophobic and really added to the eeriness of the level. Then I found this really weird area, but all of a sudden I couldn't admire it because I saw a giant entity coming straight towards me. I tried swinging my sword at it, but it didn't look like the entity could be damaged. I wasn't going to risk it, and for all I knew, the entity could kill me in one hit. I kept running. I wasn't going to stop now. After waiting a little longer for the entity to disappear, I decided to check out what the black substance was. Whenever I touched it, it would give me some harming effect, so I decided not to, but then I climbed up a ladder. This would really help me because it looked like I could go throughout the level, but if I stood on the grates for too long, well, they would fall out from beneath my footing. Hopefully this wouldn't happen when an entity showed up. I stood above the ceiling and kept walking throughout level 0. This seemed like the safest option because it didn't look like any entities could spawn up here. But that's when I saw it. The giant entity that had chased me earlier was right below me. It didn't seem to notice me, but I definitely did not want to fall down right here. I kept walking. Later during my walk above level 0, I saw another entity. This time it was a smiler. Again, it didn't really seem to notice me, but I definitely didn't want to fall down. I decided to walk a little more forward and then finally drop down. But that was my biggest mistake. After my close encounter with the entity, I ran as fast as I could until I found the stairwell. It looked like the entity was still following me, but I was able to keep my distance from it. I then hid for a few minutes and then went back up, and it looked like the entity was gone. I could still hear it and I knew it was close by, but I was safe wherever I was. Days 10 through 20. I was starting to become more paranoid by the second with this level. I needed to escape instantly. I was getting tired of the same old area over and over. I found another area where I could crouch. I decided I was going to try to make it to level 1 right after this. After walking around level 0 for a bit longer, I finally noticed a different area. This was known as the pitfalls, and I noticed that the block beneath was the same material that the ceiling was made out of. If I stood on it for too long, it would fall and I would die. I quickly made my way through the section and continued on my way. For the next few minutes, I just ran around looking for some sort of exit. No matter where I went, even in the ceiling, I found no resemblance of an exit. Luckily, I didn't really have any encounters with an entity except that one smiler, until I found another staircase. This time I decided to go down it. I found barrels that were empty, but then I saw a block. When I hit it, it glowed up and said checkpoint. This wasn't really helpful though, since I was in hardcore mode. But finally, after a little more searching, I found an unusually bright light until I walked out and I was fully outside. There were plants all around me, but then that's when I noticed it. There was a door with the word exit above it. This was my ticket to getting out of level 0 and possibly even escaping the backrooms. I got ready and then opened the door. Something was terribly wrong. First of all, I had no items in my inventory. For some reason, when I had gone to level 0, my items had stayed, but this time they were completely gone. Now I would have to keep track of how much food and hunger I had left. And also something else was wrong. I noticed that I had been teleported to level 2 and not level 1. For some reason, I was in pipe dreams. I had no clue what sort of entities were in here, if there were any at all. So I kept quiet and made my way through the halls. On days 20 through 25, I climbed up on top of a ladder, but then that's when I heard and saw it. It looked like Herobrine was running down the hallway, but I knew it was something else. It was absolutely terrifying. It ran straight towards me. Luckily, it looked like it couldn't climb ladders, but still, I was now trapped. I would have to make a run for it if I wanted to survive this instance. I got ready, worked up momentum, but just as I was about to go, it changed skins again and started making more sounds. I got ready and decided to make a run for it.
Howdy.
After just barely avoiding all of the entities and skin stealers, I saw the exit door, but there was a massive problem. It was locked behind the gate. At the very beginning of this level, it had said I needed to find a key, so I was going to have to go back down and find a key and make it back here alive. On days 25 through 35, I walked around looking for some sort of key so I could leave this level. I knew that skin stealers could be nearby, but that's when I saw it. I looked up and it was a dark void, and in the center, it looked like there was some sort of rope. I looked around me and there were no skin stealers. Suddenly, I walked to the center. It looked like the rope could be broken, but I also noticed I was able to climb it. Since I had no sign of keys whatsoever in this level, I decided to climb up and hope for the best. When I finally reached the top of the tall rope, all my questions were answered. I was now in level 1, the Habitable Zone, also known as the parking garage. I looked all around me. I didn't know what sort of entities were in this level, so I was still sure to keep quiet, but then I realized this might be the place where I can find my keys at. I then found a stairwell that led to actual daylight, but that's when I heard something, and after I looked behind me, I realized there was a death moth heading straight towards me. If it touched me, it would most likely either damage me a lot or kill me. I could not afford to lose this challenge right now, so my best bet was to run. I ran through the corridors of level 1. The lights were flickering, and it sounded like the moth was no longer on my tail though, so I had a chance to breathe. I still kept running though at a steady pace. That way I could find the key and get out of both of these levels. After a bit more searching around, I noticed something off. There was a giant pit, but that's when I saw it. The key was in the middle, but then I noticed there were giant hounds surrounding the key. I didn't know if these killed me in one hit or if they did damage, but it wasn't something I was willing to risk. Now I had to think to myself, how could I get the key without being caught? Well, if you didn't know, these things are actually blind. So, as long as I remain quiet, I would be able to get the key and hopefully none of them would notice me. This was a huge risk, but it was the only way I could escape both of these levels and move on. On days 35 through 40, I quickly made my way back to where the locked gate was so I could finally exit the series of levels and hopefully get back to reality. Also, really quickly, while I'm on my way to the exit, I wanted to let you know that you can now donate to me at Ko-Fi. So if you really enjoy the content, feel free to go donate to me. It really helps out my channel. You can also get early access to the Minecraft map that I'm building that does in fact have the Backrooms on it. Also, please do consider subscribing, but even more than that, if you enjoy the video, rewatch it. I'm trying to get to 4,000 watch hours by the end of 2025 so I can finally make money off my channel. Anyways, y'all have a great day and back to the video. I finally made my way all the way back to the ladder, and when I reached the top, I saw it. I inserted my key to the locked door and then got ready to go through the exit, which hopefully led back to reality. Just seconds after walking through the door, I was falling straight into an ocean, and that's when I realized I was in level 7. This level was extremely dangerous. Not only could I drown, but it had some sort of entity known as the Thing, which was basically a giant sea monster that would instantly devour me if I got too close. I needed to find some area out of the water really quickly so I didn't get devoured. Luckily, I swam to the middle of what looked like a checkpoint, and I had an area where I didn't have to swim. While there most likely was an entity on this level, it didn't look like there was anything in the water, so I jumped in to see how deep it was. I swam down for a few seconds, but then that's when I noticed something. Something was underwater. It didn't move, but it looked like it might be something useful, and when I swam inside of it, sure enough, my bubbles were stored. This would be a huge help in the future if I ever needed a breath of air but didn't want to go back up. I swam back up to the surface and then decided to turn up my render distance to see if there was anything I could find. When I had first entered this level, it had told me that I needed to find a key of some sort, so I decided that that must be my next goal. After looking around for a little bit longer, I noticed 2 houses in the distance. I decided to go to one of them since there would most likely be a key there, and then finally, after working up a bit of momentum, I swam to the closest one. After swimming for a little bit, I was able to get near the house, but then that's when I saw something. At first it looked like some sort of submarine, but then it moved, and I just realized I had come face to face with the Thing. I tried to look for an entrance to the house, but the only way in seemed to be through the bottom. I needed to be truly cautious now. If the Thing saw me, then it would surely come after me. I took a quick look underwater and, well, luckily it didn't see me, but I definitely saw it. I quickly swam underwater when the Thing wasn't paying attention and made it inside the house. Now I had the second to rest. There was a checkpoint which once again wasn't that big, but then I saw the key. I grabbed the key, but then needed a plan to get out without being seen by the Thing. I quickly devised a plan in my head, then got ready to use it. I decided to get out of the house and then quickly swim out so I could make it back to the middle raft. I swam as fast as my Minecraft character could and didn't look back until I had a safe distance. Luckily, the thing never did come after me, but I got really lucky. I swam all the way back to the raft, but then realized the problem. I had found the key, but I didn't actually find an entrance to put it into. But then that's when I realized the things underwater were to keep my bubbles. So, logically, the exit must be underwater, but that would mean I would have to dive all the way underwater and, well, who knows what's down there. I had no other choice. I had searched both houses and, well, underwater was the only way, so I got ready, took a deep breath, and dove underwater. I slowly got up and looked around me. I was in a ginormous city. This was level 11, and I knew what I need to do. When I got into this level, it told me to find the tower and get the key, so that needed to be my goal. I wasn't sure of any entities on this level, and it was daytime, but I didn't dare find out what happens if I stayed around until night. Day 65 through 75, I explored around the city. I had yet to find any tower or any key, but also I hadn't found any entities. This was good, but it also created an eerie atmosphere around me. But I really wanted to find the key before nighttime fell, because I was positive then that an entity, or many of them, would come out and try to devour me. Some areas of the city felt claustrophobic and pushed together, but others felt endless. I was on a giant long stretch of nothing but buildings as far as the eye could see. I hadn't found any clues on where this tower was. I thought it was going to be easier when coming into this level, but the buildings around me stretched so high, it was hard to see if there was a higher building than any of the other ones. Building after building after building, but there was still no difference. They were all high. Some of them were small though, but still, it was hard to find a giant tower in the middle of this, and I found no resemblance of a key. The only thing I did find were empty rooms, some that had tables and chairs, and others with just a couple of barrels. I needed to find this quick, because night was really quickly approaching. But then that's when I saw it. I had been so distracted on finding the tower, I almost walked directly into a hound. And then I looked around me. There was one hound next to me, but then I had the thought. That did confirm that there were entities on this level, and it was then I realized. I had used almost all time of day looking for this building, and now, night started to fall onto the horizon. I got right in front of the tower. I was getting ready to enter. It was massively tall, but this was my only way to escape this level and hopefully get back to reality. When I walked inside, it looked weird, but then that's when I noticed. There were platforms above me, and when I looked around, I realized what this was. It was a parkour course. I was going to have to get all the way up to the top in one shot without dying, or else I'd fail. I wasn't going to fail this. I got ready and began the parkour. On days 75 through 95, I woke up and spawned inside of a giant cornfield. I didn't know of any entities in this level, and as far as I could see, there was nothing except wheat. So I was confused, honestly, on what to do. There were rare areas where there wasn't wheat anywhere, and it was just patches. But just like level 7, this level gave me an eerie vibe. It was almost, how do you say, unsettling. And the scarecrows that were scattered throughout were also very creepy looking. I decided to keep my distance and just traverse until I found something new. Something wasn't right with this level. I felt like I was being watched and kept hearing strange noises, but all I saw were the scarecrows and the wheat that stretched for miles upon end. I decided to traverse the rest of the way using third person FFE. That way I could see all around me, and if anything was hiding in the wheat, I would have a few seconds to run from it. But then that's when I realized something. Just because there isn't something here during the day, doesn't mean there isn't something during the night. And that's when it happened. The sun was slowly setting on the horizon, and I looked around, and the scarecrows looked more alive. I kept walking until I heard a sound, and there stood a scarecrow that definitely had not been there before, and then I saw it move. This was it. The scarecrows in this cornfield were all alive, and my only hope was to escape this level. I looked into the far distance and saw a hot air balloon on the ground. I was assuming if I made it there, then hopefully that would end this whole thing, and I would be able to get back to reality. This was it. The last level. It was this or die.